Quivering Desire. Chapter 1. Just a Drink. I wasn't supposed to be out tonight, but something inside me itched. Deep, restless, hungry. I needed air. I needed out. I didn't live alone, not even close. I was hemmed in by noise that never ends. The low static of the TV no one was really watching, the anxious hum of the fridge, the ever-present ticking of a life too carefully constructed. I had built it all, piece by piece. The job, the apartment, the calendar colored in with precision, a life that looked good from the outside. But on the inside, I was quiet in the wrong places. Something was missing. A beat that never drops. A touch that never came. The firm I worked for had booked Damien a room at the hotel where the weekend seminar was also taking place. One of my subordinates, technically. But Damien was new to the firm and never felt like just another line on the payroll. The hotel was close to my apartment, a 30-minute walk, or maybe a little more if I strolled. And I started thinking about the quiet. The low hum of the city pressing its lips onto the night. The way hotel lights cast shadows like secrets. And the way I needed to slip into one of them. I told myself I might meet a couple of clients, have a drink, talk business. I always say that when I want to feel reckless without admitting I'm chasing something. And tonight, it wasn't about business. There was something about the air, charged, alive, like a whisper against skin before the kiss lands. I needed to feel different, to lose myself for a moment in something unscheduled. Unpredictable, undone. So I did what I wasn't supposed to do. I snuck out, softly, silently, like desire slipping past reason, wearing intention and a hint of naughtiness. No goodbyes, no explanations, just the familiar sound of my door closing behind me and the click of my heels falling into step with a city that didn't ask questions. I didn't even think about Damien. Not exactly. It wasn't about him, not yet. It was about what he represented. A what-if, a soft detour off the straight and narrow. A door cracked open in a hallway I didn't know I wanted to walk down. And somewhere between the streetlight and the lobby, my pulse started to race. I walked through the lobby like I owned the night when I arrived. Not rushed, not hesitant. Each step measured, heels kissing the marble floor with a quiet kind of command. I wasn't just another woman ducking into the bar for a drink. I was Liz, a corporate lawyer, partner. Poised. Sharp. Untouchable. Or so I told myself. I slid onto a bar stool and ordered a glass of red, letting the stem settle between my fingers like an extension of my mood. The wine came quickly, rich, deep, and dark as desire. I took a sip. Let it linger. Let it stain my lips with something close to confidence. The room hummed with half-hearted flirtations and practiced laughs. I offered mine in return. Small talk, polished smiles, the easy charm of someone who knew how to play the game. But I wasn't really there for that. My mind kept drifting to him, to Damien. The very thought sent a flicker of heat coiling low in my belly. I hadn't planned to seek him out, but the bar was too small for secrets, too intimate for pretending. And then, there he was, leaning against the far end of the bar, one hand resting on the polished wood, the other curled casually around a glass. Relaxed, composed, dangerously self-assured. He saw me. Of course he did. And when our eyes met, it was like everything else dropped away. The clinking glasses, the background music, the murmur of voices. All I could hear was the space between us tightening. His gaze didn't wander. It didn't question. It just held mine, steady, slow, and thick with implications. He didn't wait for an invitation. Maybe he didn't need one. He moved toward me like it had already been decided, like he knew. And when he reached me, that smile, that quiet curve of his lips, said everything neither of us dared to speak. Not yet. "Liz," he said, voice like warm velvet, poured low and slow into the space between us. Didn't expect to see you here. My name sounded different from his lips, less like just a name and more like a secret. And for a second I forgot how to breathe. I should have said something safe, something professional. But that part of me, the one that wears tailored suits and speaks in bullet points, had already gone quiet. What answered was something softer, bolder, and a little reckless. Just needed a drink, I said, the shrug of my shoulder masking the pulse in my throat. Figured I might as well make an appearance before tomorrow. He nodded slowly, considered. That makes sense. But the look he gave me said something else entirely. That smile. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It curled at the corners of his mouth like he was in on a secret and I was part of it. We talked. At first it was easy. Work, the seminar, harmless banter. But under it all, something kept shifting. The air grew warmer, more intimate, as if the whole bar had tilted just a little to draw us closer. He laughed at something I said, leaned in, and suddenly, the distance between our bodies didn't feel like enough. There was something about Damien, something that didn't ask permission. He spoke to me, just me. And I felt it. The way his gaze lingered just a beat longer than necessary. The way his voice dipped when he said my name again, as if he knew it was stirring something beneath my skin. He didn't speak to Liz from senior management. I wasn't just sitting at a hotel bar anymore. I was seen. Not as a title. Not as a polished version of myself built for boardrooms and leadership reviews. But as a woman. One with fire in her veins and hunger tightening low in her belly. As the evening stretched on, the wine kept finding its way to our glasses. 1, then 2, then 3. And with every slow sip, something slipped. Not just the formalities, but the quiet rules I'd lived by. The ones that kept me composed, controlled, safe. His voice was softer now, and mine was warmer. The conversation strayed from work and drifted into something more personal, tender, tempting. Somewhere between laughter and silence, we crossed an invisible line. I couldn't tell you when, only that it happened. How we went from colleagues to something more elemental. Two people circling something unspoken, each word daring the other to come closer. I should have left, but I didn't. I stayed. And then his hand brushed against mine as he reached for his glass, and suddenly, nothing felt light at all. It was barely a touch. A whisper of skin on skin, but it felt like thunder beneath the surface of my body. I didn't move, didn't flinch. I just let my fingers rest there, close enough to feel his pulse, and close enough to know this wasn't just in my head. He noticed. God, he noticed. His fingers slid over mine, warm, firm, purposeful. He held my hand like he'd done it before. In some dream neither of us dared speak aloud. And I let him. I let that touch bloom through me, a slow ache that traveled all the way to my knees. For a moment, the bar disappeared. The clinking glasses, the scattered laughter, the curated charm of public space, none of it existed. Just this. Just us. When I looked up and saw the way his eyes had darkened, like he'd made a decision, like he already knew how the next hour would unfold, I felt something shift in me. Something deeper. Hungrier. This wasn't curiosity anymore. It wasn't just flirting. This was desire. And it had finally been touched. Before I knew it, we were laughing again. Close, easy, sharing whispered jokes like we were in on something no one else could understand. And then, in one careless moment, I tipped my glass, the red wine splashing across my chest and down my dress. I froze. My heart skipped. And then Damien, he didn't skip a beat. "Let me help you." His voice was calm and reassuring. "You can borrow my room to clean up. No big deal, no weirdness," he added, his smile wide and disarming. I should have said no. I should have just called a cab and returned to the life I had built. the life I was supposed to live. But I didn't. "All right," I said, the words slipping out, quieter than intended. "Just give me a minute." Then we headed upstairs. The slow hum of the elevator as it climbed felt endless. My thoughts scrambled as I raced to make sense of the moment. I wasn't naive. I knew exactly what this could lead to. But still, a strange, unfamiliar pull made my heart beat harder, my skin suddenly too sensitive, too aware. When we finally reached his room, Damien opened the door. I stepped inside. The room was simple, like any other hotel room, but something about it made it feel private, intimate, a space where no one else had the right to be. "Make yourself at home," he said, his voice low but smooth, almost like a promise. "I'll leave you to freshen up." Inside the bathroom, I stood in front of the mirror for a long moment. The rush of the evening, the wine, the laughter, the touch, still buzzed beneath my skin. I let the cool water run over my hands, trying to steady my pulse. I could just fix my dress and leave. Pretend nothing had happened. Return to the life that made sense. But something told me that walking away wasn't an option. So I stood there a moment longer, letting the cool water ground me, even as the warmth inside me continued to build. I'd be fine. I'd dry my dress, and I'd leave. And yet, my body knew better. I wasn't prepared for what I found when I stepped out. Damien stood by the bed, his shirt discarded, the soft light of the room catching the lines of him. He turned toward me, and his gaze locked with mine. The darkness in his eyes deepened, and I could feel the weight of his stare like a touch, pulling at me. I froze. The tension between us was palpable, thickening the air with a kind of raw electricity I couldn't deny. Every part of me was suddenly awake, screaming for something I hadn't been able to admit even to myself. I took a step toward him, and then my feet betrayed me. I lost my balance, pitching forward, and his arms were there before I could fall. Strong hands caught me, steady and unyielding, lifting me back like I weighed nothing. We stood there for a breathless moment, suspended in time. His eyes searched mine. A flicker of hesitation, a question, an unspoken uncertainty. And then he moved closer. Slowly, deliberately, as if every step mattered. He reached out, his fingers grazing the edge of my dress. The touch was light but unmistakable, sending a jolt of electricity straight through me. I didn't pull away. I leaned in. What followed was inevitable. The quiet collapse of every wall I had so carefully built. Not reckless, not regretted. Just two people finally letting go of the distance between them, surrendering to something that had been building since the first moment our eyes met across a crowded bar. The fire in the hearth cast long, amber shadows across the room as the night unfolded. Slow, consuming, and entirely ours. Afterward, we lay tangled together, breathless and still. The fire had dwindled to a soft glow. I nestled closer to him, letting the rise and fall of his chest soothe the flutter still in mine. He didn't speak. Neither did I. Words would have ruined it. Instead, we let the silence stretch, warm and thick, like a blanket draped over our tangled limbs. I traced lazy circles along his chest, memorizing the feel of him. Every part of me still ached, but it was a beautiful ache. He kissed my shoulder, softly now. I closed my eyes, letting the warmth of his embrace and the quiet of the room pull me towards something close to sleep. We were more than just a stolen evening in that moment. We were fire and rhythm, and silence, and stillness. And whatever came after this, well, that was for Monday. I should have felt guilty. Maybe I did in some quiet corner of my mind. But it was drowned out by the warmth still flickering in my veins. By the way he tightened his arm around me, as if he could read my thoughts and didn't want me to slip away just yet. And I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in this cocoon of post-passion haze. Let the scent of the evening cling to my skin. Let the memory of his touch mark me from the inside out. I had snuck out of my home and left the safety of my little world behind. But in that moment, none of it mattered. All that mattered was this raw, unapologetic connection. I felt changed. Not broken, not reckless, empowered. Like I'd taken something for myself, something that belonged to me and me alone. No permission, no explanations, just a moment of pure, undeniable want, and the courage to chase it. End of Chapter 1. If you're enjoying the story, this is the tamed version. If you want the full, unedited, Quivering Desire, every heat, every detail, every moment we had to leave out to keep it clean for this platform, grab your physical copy and enjoy the uninhibited version.